If you work with people, you probably have a certain level of compassion. Whether you're a caregiver for a parent, a spouse, you are a teacher, whoever it is you're caring for, again, you probably have some level of empathy. So you deeply feel for this person or the people that you care for. Something I'm going to talk about today is the phrase, "This is not my emergency." So when you're dealing with somebody, whether again you're a practitioner, whatever your role is, something to keep in mind when the person that you are responsible for in one way or another is having an issue, to remind yourself that it is not your emergency, that it is their situation that they're moving through and you happen to be a witness of and are meant to play a supporting role. And the big factor that can kind of draw us in and make us feel like it is our emergency is when we care so much. And I'm, of course, not asking you not to care about the people you care for. That goes against the nature of your being. But rather keep in perspective, what is my role here? What part do I play in this greater equation of this person's life? So perhaps you have someone in your life that's dealing with illness. It's, of course, impacting you as well. If it's a spouse, if it's a family member, even a friend, of course that impacts you. However, it is not your emergency. It is not your bag to carry. It is that person's. It's their experience. And however involved you may be in their experience, it still remains true that it is not your emergency. It is not for you to take on their anxieties, their fears, or their concerns. Your work as a caregiver is to remain as neutral as possible so that when the time comes for you to make decisions, perhaps on their behalf or with them, that you are in a neutral place, not carrying around this person's emergency on your back because you are a caregiver. And I say all of that knowing how challenging it is to give someone back their emergency, their pain, and not take it on ourselves. It's so easy to get swept up in the momentum of their story, of the appointments and all the things they have to deal with and the struggles they have. Or perhaps you're a teacher and you see kids that are suffering that don't have supportive homes. It's really easy for you to go there with them and be in their pain. But I'll give you a little thing to imagine that may be helpful. So you see someone suffering. Imagine them in a hole. Maybe they didn't dig it themselves, but there they are in the hole without resources. And they're calling your name, they're asking for your support. And so you go over to that hole and you look in, and you, standing on solid ground, not in a ditch, not in a hole, you have access to a cell phone. You have access to emergency responders, you have a ladder, you have tools, you have a flashlight, you have nutrients, you have the things you need when you stay above ground. But the second you decide to jump in the hole with the person that's suffering, to be compassionate, right? You're not doing it for attention or because you have FOMO. It's not like you want to miss out on that, but it's not, you're jumping down because you want to meet that person where they are. If they're in pain, I'll come down there with you. If you're suffering, if you're having an emergency, let me get in there with you, because that can feel like the most compassionate thing. So as a caregiver, balancing this role of I want to hear you and I want to come closer to your level, right? If you're standing on solid ground and that person's in the hole and you're standing up taller trying to listen to the sky instead of, maybe you crouch down and you can peer over the hole, but you don't have to jump in there with them. Because what that's encouraging is more drama. There's more neediness, even in my shoulders, I just realized. There's now an emergency for 2 versus just 1. So let's put that aside for right now. As the caregiver, you may need some emergency care. After a traumatic or really tough event happens, or just the day-to-day buildup of being a caregiver, you probably need support. But a very common thing we do as caregivers is we jump to, but my situation's not as bad as hers, so I think I'm good. And it's something that, again, really speaks to how much you care, that I love them so much and I see them suffering. Who am I to say I have pain? This person's suffering from chronic pain, or this child is constantly hungry, or this person is an amputee and they're never going to walk properly again. Like, who am I to complain? And it's remembering we all have our own track here. Everybody came in with different experiences meant to be had, and we have to trust that the track that we're on, think about like a track at a field, there's lanes. Stay in your lane while you can also observe other people's. So as the caregiver, remembering to emphasize your well-being, because when you don't emphasize your well-being, you know what you're doing? You're making your way down into the hole with the person you're meant to be the caregiver of. And being a caregiver, a nurse, a doctor, a psychologist, a practitioner, a gym instructor, whatever your thing is where you're working with people, like I categorize it as caregiver, but I'm talking like anyone who's working with others that are coming to you for assistance. It is in your best interest, and also the best interest of the clientele, of the people you're working with, to make sure that you are plenty cared for. So plenty, like you are overflowing with compassion, with grace, with ease, with confidence, with all the support you need. So you're stitched together, so then you can go assist someone in their emergency. Like I said, it's so easy to take on whoever it is you're caring for's stuff. You're probably a sensitive type. You probably have an intuitive hits. You can probably look at a person and say, oh, that's a tough day for her, a tough day for him. You probably can do that. And that, if you're not being deliberate about giving people back their things, return to rightful owner, thank you so much, then you're going to be weighed down and not of service in the way that you truly could be. And that is what we need to keep in mind. What is my role? Who am I here for? And remembering, no matter what role I play, I've got to be cared for first. That is a must. So prioritizing your well-being, so maybe that's a longer weekend. I work 4 days a week. That's not out of being lazy, that's self-preservation. I know having a Saturday, I take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. But Friday, sometimes I flex a bit. But Saturday and Sunday, I know for me, those are days of rejuvenation, of family time, of rest. That is a deliberate intention to give to myself. Like I said, family time, that's mostly when my family is available, and I prioritize that. And people have said to me, oh, but like the weekends, you'd get so many clients, and that would be fantastic for a couple months. Until I slowly started to get resentful because I wasn't able to go to my nephew's soccer game, or I missed the play, or I missed that family party because I had work on Sunday morning. I'm not willing to do that. And I have learned this because I myself was a caregiver. My mom was sick since I was in first grade up until my freshman year of high school, and she passed then. And she never asked me to be her caregiver. I just could not see another way through life other than being her caregiver. And I realize now how many times I wanted to take on her pain. I feel like I actually manifested migraines because I saw what pain she was in, and I'm like, I gotta take some of that from her, which of course didn't work. And I learned so much about betray is a strong word, but that's what comes to mind, betraying my needs for someone else's. And of course, now looking back, my mom would never want me to do that, but this was my childhood. This is how I was growing up. I saw someone in need that I wanted to be of service to. And so that taught me, because it is a learning curve, you know? You don't just become a caregiver and know how to cope. No, there needs to be support there. We need teams, we need therapists, we need healers, we need support. Because when you're the supporting beam for someone else, or a family, or a class, or a school, or an office, we have to ask, who's supporting you? And in what ways can you shift your schedule or the dynamics or your way of life to better support you? So if you're run down, if you're just like absolute toast, that is a sign you've probably jumped in the hole, try to scratch your way back out, and you keep jumping in. You're making someone else's emergency your emergency. And I feel for you. Sweet, sweet heart of yours. But I am telling you, you will be freed from resentment when you tend to you, when you fill your cup up, when you give to you, and it could be so small. Like, I like painting my nails. That makes me feel like, I'm taken care of. Simple as that. That makes me feel good. I do that before the week because when I'm looking at my hands, doing Reiki, doing my thing on calls, I'm like, yep, feels good. I know movement's a part of that for me. It can be anything that helps you regulate your emotions, your body, your nervous system, come back into center so that you are a clear, solid, and strong channel that is able to be of assistance to those that need your caregiving. And if you didn't know, you are so important to the equation that you're part of. Your well-being is imperative for this equation to run as smoothly as it does. And whatever feelings you may face of guilt, of sadness, of grief, let them be there, but also know that you will shift through that and come out clearer and feeling like that lighthouse, right? Imagine a lighthouse, solid. It's deeply rooted into the ground. It has waves crashing on it, and it is a steady light. It doesn't matter what boat's passing. It doesn't matter what boat's lost. It just constantly shines its light, and it is solid in the emotional turbulence of life. So if you need help being like the lighthouse, I offer one-on-one sessions. I offer group work. I'm actually kind of thinking of doing more subscription-based thing. Thank you, a friend, for inspiring me to do that. So keep an eye out. And if you are not part of my email list, you can go to reachyourhappy.com, put your email in there, but check your junk in your promo section in your email so you definitely get these updates. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take good care of yourself. It matters.